Radio communications in times of national emergency and natural disasters by Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you happen to be watching this, and welcome back to the channel. Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446. Now, I'm sat here with a nice cup of tea. Very nice cup of tea. So I always make good cups of tea. Anyone who made a cup of tea for would attest to that. Got my tablet, well laptop come tablet, watching YouTube videos. Got a little mobile phone here. Yeah. So, what I want to talk about is if all that stops working in the time of a national emergency or disaster, what would we do for communications? Well, I think I have the answer to that. Answer one of these. I'm sure you know what this is by now if you're a regular to the channel. That's a CB radio. One of the most simplest bits of communication equipment anyone could own, and it will run off a battery. So, you know, this has come about because there are people out there at the moment, at the time of filming, which is February 2020. I think there's going to be a pandemic of, if you've been watching the news lately, or listening to it, which I do, of the coronavirus that's come out of Wuhan in China. Yeah. Some people think there's going to be a pandemic of that. And unfortunately, should that happen, a cup of tea, which I could probably still have tea during that kind of crisis, which probably overload the systems that allow these to run, and therefore most people today in society just have these all the time as they're looking at them like that as they're walking along. But those people during a crisis situation when it all stops working would find, how are they going to communicate? They get on Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, that sort of thing. Really, this video wouldn't be accessible either, to be honest. On the mobile platforms at the very least, as far as I'm aware, the landlines would still be working because they'd still have a backup battery, at least for a couple of hours, or a generator. That's something I do have, as a generator, so I've still got the means to run one of these radios. So, that's not so bad. I've got a battery as well in my car. I can just go down and remove it and use that to run my radios. And I've got that jump starter as well that I can use to run these radios. Don't mind me drinking loads of tea. Part of this also started off with a video that Fred in the Shed did on his Fred in the Shed 2 channel, which is called CB Radio in a National Emergency. He has a point. So, basically, mobile phones won't work. The solution is this. Just needs an antenna, a battery, and that radio, and you're good to go. Could use one of these. This is a handheld CB, but you know the range on that's not going to be brilliant unless you stood on top of a hill, I suppose. But you know, when everything's all in lockdown and quarantine and everything, yeah, you don't want to be going outside. But you know, I don't think it's going to happen myself. Although I'm pretty certain there's plenty of people out there, the prepper sorts and that sort of thing, that think, oh my God, there's going to be this massive pandemic. We're all going to be quarantined and everything, and everything's going to just grind to a halt and stop working. I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that CB radio is ideal for times when the mobile phone network simply stop working. I've got a mobile phone and I do use it. I use that phone for the internet now and again. I don't use it all the time for the internet when I'm out and about. I just use it to look things up. I'm not like most modern people who just walk around looking at their phones. I've seen a lot of youngsters do that. Just walk out into roads and things. Not a care in the world. Just imagine how they'd react if that phone was no longer able to do what they wanted it to do. they'd be panicking. They wouldn't know what to do at all. When their parents were probably their age, these things were still around, and mobile phones were quite expensive. These things were still all the rage, for the most part. In fact, when I was the age of some of the youngsters that you see out there today, about 15, I wouldn't have ever dreamt of having a mobile phone. It wasn't even possible for me to get hold of a mobile phone. I bought my first mobile phone at 16 before it was considered cool for a teenager to have a mobile phone. Not a lot of people know that, but I did actually have a mobile phone when I was 16. Yeah, so there you go. That was around about the time when Vodafone first introduced pay-as-you-go. It was the only network offering it at the time. These were around when I was 16, but I hadn't quite latched onto them at that point. So I was still into my computers and everything, which I still am to this day. I'm still quite techie, which is why I'm an amateur radio operator as well. Would have probably got my B license back then, but I never thought to do it. Never looked into it. But So here's what would probably be the chain of events. Obviously, the outbreak of this supposed coronavirus that's supposedly deadly, which I don't believe it is. I just believe it's only fatal to those who have really bad immune systems. So they're the ones that would be really screwed. So what would happen? The chain of events would be this. So that's a mobile phone. Can't really see the signal strength on this one, I don't think. What would happen is that signal strength may remain as it is, or whilst loads of people are trying to text and call their loved ones and they're just not getting through because the system becomes overloaded. It can only handle so much at a time. In the past, I've actually experienced this happen, like on New Year's, at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Day. There's not so much of a problem these days because the network's got higher capacity than what it did, but it can still be overloaded and it will still fall off. So, what to do? There was a fuse in that one, so I can't just power that up and show you it again, but that's okay, no need to do that. I was going to do that, but don't need to do that. So with the CB radio, the system can't be overloaded. I mean, too many people could try and transmit at once, but the stronger signals will always override the weaker ones because these are transmitting FM and use some phenomenon known as the capture effect. So the stronger signal will get through first, over the top of the weaker one. So these will still work, but there's like 80 channels, 80 frequencies to pick from, so there should be no shortage of space. So yeah, all you've got to do, turn it on. That's like that. Keep that squelch control as far down as you can, just to keep the background noise on. Just have a twiddle around with a tuning knob. Not difficult. So those work in times of emergency. An antenna can be fabricated in less than 5 to 10 minutes out of a couple of bits of wire. It can be tuned as well in probably about the same sort of time. So probably about 20 minutes you're on the air. And just a piece of wire type antenna just strung in a tree. That's all you need to do, and you can get out and radio everybody you know, and that's it. When the mobile phones all stop working, CB will prevail. So the chain of events, as I said, would be the mobile phone networks overload, stop working, people start panicking. So what I think is a wise thing to do is invest in one of these. I mean, these aren't expensive. This one is probably one of the more expensive ones. I think this one's about £80 or £90-ish, give or take. Although this particular example, I did get it B grade and it is a bit beaten up because I have used it. You can get a basic one for about £50 maybe. You can sometimes get the antenna and a radio and, well, the antenna would be the sort that goes on your car. Antenna, magnetic mount, radio, and there you go. I mean, you can just stick that magnetic mount onto a sheet of metal and it would still work to some degree. It wouldn't work that well, but it would work. So basically you've got no shortage of communication. I keep a working CB in the car, so if I'm out of mobile phone range I can hopefully still be got hold of, but no one else I know directly in my work or anything owns a CB radio at the moment. I'm going to have to try and convince them to, because it's a good idea. I'm going to try and convince a few of them and see what they say. I mean, I guess you could still buy the older type CB radios, which are still going strong, but quite cheap. So it pays to have a CB radio in your car in case of a national disaster or emergency. So it wouldn't just include a possible pandemic, the coronavirus, which I still don't think is going to happen. There could be terrorist attacks, which you hear about all the time, which then would cause overload of the mobile phone network by virtue of people trying to call and text loved ones to make sure they're alright. Then there's natural disasters, although they're few and far between in this country, but we do get a lot of flooding these days because a lot of houses are built on floodplains. So there you go. So natural disasters are few and far between. National emergencies, well, they rarely happen anyway as it is, but it's best to be prepared. So to run that CB radio, I just need a car battery or some other source of 12 volts. Well, it's rated to 12.6, plus minus 10%, but that isn't really relevant here. So I just need a supply of 12 volts, which can either be a battery, which I can remove from my car if absolutely necessary, because in times of emergency or national emergency or natural disaster, I'm not going to be going very far in my car, so I'm not going to take the battery out of it. Or I can use the existing power supply that I've got and my generator. I do own a Parkside generator that I bought from Lidl, so you can go to places like that and buy a generator. I think it was about £130 off the top of my head, can't remember. But you'd obviously need to make sure you've got a supply of petrol. On that one, you're only legally allowed to store 30 litres of petrol without notifying the authorities. So if you're going to go down that route, buy a generator and stockpile a load of petrol, then you will have to think about how much you can legally store before you do that. I don't think that restriction applies to diesel, so if we're lucky enough to have the money for a diesel generator, then that would be fine, but that's probably a bit overkill for running a power supply for one of these. My power supply is only protected with a 3 amp fuse, and that's nowhere, probably not really anywhere near the maximum output of the generator. A kettle to boil water would overload that generator that I've got. So you've got to think, what's important? You can boil water using a gas stove if you need to. So you can keep your electricity for your communications and charging your phone, assuming it still works, and charging the power banks for it. But the chances of your phone working during any kind of emergency is next to nil. The mobile phone network, although designed to have a little bit of resilience, isn't that resilient. Then, of course, comes the emergency services. Their radio systems are based on a similar fashion to mobile phones, except it's slightly different technology. If they don't have these, they don't have normal radios anymore. They don't have CB radios, they don't have the radios they used to have in the past. It's all gone to something digital and encrypted, and uses like similar to cell towers. It just will overload and stop working. So it even pays for the emergency services to keep at least one of these working somewhere. I know of the mountain rescue have these, so they at least are covered. It's other people like the police, fire, ambulance service. All of those will be in heavy demand during times of emergency. So getting hold of them on the landline might be possible. if the telephone exchange is still powered, which it could be, because if your power goes off, it would cut power to the telephone exchange as well. But they tend to run off a backup battery for a little while, sometimes a backup generator, but obviously that depends on the supply of fuel that they have at the site. I live in an army town, so I suspect the telephone exchange is well and truly backed up, because obviously and obviously there's the support of the army there as well. So it's alright, it should be all alright, but I still say make sure you've got one of these. It doesn't matter where you live. You can live at the top, you can live in a block of flats, you can live in a little house in the middle of nowhere. You can live in, well, Richmond, which is a rather bad example because it's kind of all built on a hill. The people at the top of the hill get out further than the people at the bottom. But the people at the bottom will still hear the people at the top. They'll still be able to communicate. More tea. Yeah, this video is kind of powered by tea today. So I'm not going to go over too much of this, I mean, because it's quite a lot in depth. I mean, the whole prepper thing, which would come into play here as well, although I have no intention of being a prepper or anything like that. I guess I really would rather not. That's just not my kind of thing. Then yeah. I know preppers try and keep some sort of emergency backup communications, and I do believe some of them use CB and some of them use the UHF's walkie-talkie things, although I wouldn't trust those in a built-up area because they're only like half a watt and their signal won't get too far in a built-up area, probably not even a mile or two. So I'd say stick with something that will work and work well, and you can probably fabricate an antenna in about 5 minutes. I've already got a wire antenna for CB, which I can just string up in a tree if I must, and I know it works because I've used it. So in the times of emergency, so basically power goes off, mobile phones stop working, your landline probably will ultimately stop working, everyone's all running around panicking. You're fine because you're still in contact with people you know. CB radio, keep it in there for emergencies. Just keep monitoring it. If you've got family members who have got these, make sure they've got the set switched on and monitoring a certain channel at all times, just in case. I've got my Thunderpole T3000 down in the car, so any emergencies while I'm on the road or anything like that, I should be able to just call for help, because I know the truck drivers will be out there somewhere and they will respond. So channel 19 is always a good place to try and call for help, because someone out there will try and respond and get assistance to you. Even if some of the people that sit on channel 19 are a bit idiotic, at least they'll have the good sense to know that there's an emergency going on and they're going to have to do something about it. So yeah, just have an active CB setup, or at least have the equipment to deploy should the time come. I'm in the situation of the latter at the moment because I don't actually have an outdoor antenna. I've only got the setup in the car, but I do have equipment in the house in which I can just string an antenna in a tree or on a fiberglass pole, and then, or I could even strap that fiberglass pole to the tree and then go from there. I mean, it's not a tall pole either, but it would work, and it would get a signal out, and I'd be able to just pick up the mic and talk. So I could just use that CB, this Midland that I've got here, with that antenna and a battery, and that's me sorted. I'm in contact with people. Unfortunately, everyone I know doesn't have a CB radio. More tea. I'm having a drink quite a lot today because I'm a bit dehydrated and a bit of a dry throat. So, surprised I'm doing the video. So, So what can I say, really? Because you get all this, you hear about it all the time in the news, and you think it might not ever happen, but it can, and it will. That's the problem, and it would bring the communications down. So, CB radio, it still has its place. It's still an ideal backup if anything else goes wrong. Go out and get yourself a CB radio. If you live in the northeast of England and you want to go out and buy one, I can recommend GB Communications or Good Buddies CB Centre in Shildon. Please go in there and please give them your business, because they'll be able to sort you out with an antenna, a mag mount and a radio. Or if you want to operate from home, they can sort you out with a base antenna if you've got permissions to put one up, or one of the smaller compact antennas. I'm looking into getting a boomerang antenna, that's for another video. Yeah, just go from there. I mean, give the CB shops your business. Buy a radio, buy an antenna if you must. Well, buy a radio and antenna. You can buy a mobile one if you must. Mobile antenna, yeah, that's absolutely fine, because you can stick it on a sheet of metal if you have one to hand. And these things will just need a basic for power supply, a car battery. If you've got a means to charge the car battery, I have. All I have to do is buy a charger to plug into the generator, because I can just run the power supply that I've got in the shack off that generator. I can demonstrate that in another video, which I will demonstrate that in another video. I'll break out my emergency antenna, or portable ops antenna, as I actually prefer to refer to it as. It's called the T2LT. You can make one of those right now. All you have to do is buy some CB coaxial cable. It's called RG58, and if you search for 104 Outdoors on YouTube, I'll put a link to the video in anyway, the chappie on that channel, Gary, he shows you how to make this antenna out of nothing more than a piece of cable, because that's all it is. It's a piece of cable with the top section at quarter wavelength stripped off, with the braid snipped off. Just waterproof it a bit and it's good to go. I'm going to demonstrate that in another video, and we're going to go from there, I think. So emergency comms, CB radio. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next bit of the subject now. I haven't got an amateur radio out here to show you, I don't think. No, they're all on charge. Yeah, so in the amateur radio world, there's an organisation in the UK called RayNet. They are there to help the emergency services, and part of our licence terms, I'm just going to have to bring that up, because the exact wording, but I will look on Ofcom's website right now. The joys of having the internet. Not sure whether in other countries what the rules are there regarding it. I don't know much about that. It's been a while since I've read FCC Part 97, which I've had to read because of a certain individual, which I won't be mentioning in this video. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Right, so okay, radio communications licenses. I think that's where I need to be on here. Okay. Right, so be under amateur radio. Information for amateur radio licensees. Yeah, and I'll read off the paragraph. Oh, hang on, that's just disappeared off me. Yeah, this tablet keyboard dock's a bit. Right, terms. Oh, that's the audio version. I don't want that. Hasn't tried downloading it, has it? No, hasn't. Good. Terms and conditions on the PDF. There we go. PDF is working. And I'll read off the section that actually, although it says that we're not allowed to do anything for any commercial purpose of any kind, but we are allowed if I can find it. Okay, so under clause 1.3 of the terms, which is in section 2, it says the licensee may use the radio equipment to assist with communications in times of disaster or national or international emergency, which means we as amateurs are actually allowed to do that. So I'm just going to look for the next reference on that. But Ofcom can also at the same time have our station closed down if during times of emergency. Okay, I'm just trying to find the section. Okay. Yeah, so basically there are user services out there, which are any Category 1 responder, Category 2 responder as defined in the Civil Contingencies Act of 2004, which would obviously be the emergency services. And it also says the licensee may use or permit the use of the radio equipment by a member of a user service during any operation conducted by a user service or during any exercise relating to such an operation, in each case for the purpose of sending messages on behalf of the user service, which is under section 2 clause 1.2. Okay. And in the notes to the license, user service can mean, well, emergency services, basically, and also the British Red Cross, St John's Ambulance, the St Andrews Ambulance Association, the Women's Royal Voluntary Service, the Salvation Army, and also any government department, which wouldn't include Ofcom, because as far as I'm aware they're actually not a department of the government. So, in effect, we can assist any emergency services, passing on messages for them, to them, and we can allow them to use our radios if absolutely necessary. Well, that's what I get from that anyway. So, as an amateur, full license holder, I can actually supervise anyone, anyway, who are either passing on greetings messages or on part of a foundation training course. So I shouldn't really be much stranger to that. Although I've yet to do any supervision of anyone on a foundation training course, which I would like to do actually. So we've got Raynet. They can be called upon in times of a national emergency. I do plan to join Raynet as soon as I can, and as soon as my time actually permits, but at the moment it does not, because I'm busy obviously with this YouTube channel and work. But we're working on that. So us amateurs are there to also help in times of emergency. So basically, if I was to join the local Raynet group, which I'm really thinking about doing, then I'm definitely now considering, then that way I can assist in times of emergency. Although Raynet also do have a presence at other sort of events as well. I'll put a link to Raynet's website in the description below as well, so if you're an amateur radio operator and you're interested in Raynet, then have a look at their website. That's basically the Raynet UK website. The Ofcom terms and conditions can be found on Ofcom's website, but you should hopefully have a copy of them anyway if you don't that's where you'll have to go to find them. I don't actually have a copy of them off the top of my head, so that's why I had to look them up on the computer. So, although having said that, during the times of emergency, national emergency and natural disaster, then yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'd have to have a paper copy of them. But of course, I'd also have to do what Ofcom tell me to do if I have to shut the station down. So if you've not got the amateur radio licence and you need a backup form of communication, that's your answer. CB radio will work in times of emergency. It'll just run off a battery, and I'll show you it running off. I'll show you that set running off my generator in another video, just to with the T2LT antenna, just to show you what we can do here. So I will end the video now and get this edited and uploaded. Well, edited and processed and uploaded, and I'll catch you in the next one where I'll actually show this Midland 78 running off a generator. So this is Paul, Mike 0, Whiskey November uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres PMR 446, or if you're just having a general natter on the CB, just address me by my name, or you could even call me the Red Squirrel if you want to do old school and use handles. Yeah, and when I'm mobile, I'm monitoring CB channel 19 all the time. So if you see a little white car with a CB antenna on it, it's on a Leeds registration as well. If you know the UK vehicle registrations, then just pick up that mic, tune to channel 19, and key up, and just say hello. I'm not going to give you my registration number on YouTube because that's just a bit silly. Right, so it's just a little white Toyota with a CB antenna on it. I will be monitoring channel 19 most of the time, if not all the time. Depends if I'm in a QSO on any local repeaters on 2 meters or 70 sems, or whether I'm already having a chat with someone on the CB already on a different channel. But I'll be monitoring 19. Oh, and yeah, one more thing. You can catch me on network radios channel 00. Although network radios won't work during times of emergency, so. But I do monitor network radios channel 00, but at present I'm not sure there's a way I can actually key up while mobile. I'm working on that. So 7.3s for now, and let's just try not to think about there actually being any nasty pandemics of this supposedly deadly coronavirus. Whilst, I'm not actually too bothered, but, this video had to be done, unfortunately, because not everybody has a CB or an amateur radio licence. So, 7.3s for now.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to be notified of new videos as I upload them. 73s from Paul, Mike 0, Whiskey November uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 on 11 meters and PMR 446.